Hello, hello. Thank you everybody for being here today. Today we're lucky enough to get to speak with Kelly Fae Wilson, author of Tanked, which honestly, I don't even know where to begin here. It was such a breath of fresh air. I feel whether it's because of my experience dating in my 20s using a dating app, maybe it's the how overrun we are with the Marvel superheroes. I feel like you took a lot of particularly common themes, but you made them so unique and so accessible. It was just such a fun story to get into. It was, yeah, I really loved how wholesome it was. I think in a world that we live in today where a lot of people read for escapism, it was a really nice breath of fresh air to get someone who just wanted to be himself and wasn't chasing the fame or this or that, which was quite nice, honestly. So hats off to you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's lovely to hear. Appreciate that.
Um, Stemming from, so just, I'll probably not to get into too big of spoilers yet. Obviously, if you're watching the interview, read the book first. It makes more sense. We will talk about the book, hence spoilers. But you have Willard, who is essentially living a double life.
Yeah.
How reflective of that, how reflective of that has been your personal experience?
Um, in my life or in publishing or both?
I guess in both, because obviously you have Willard being a superhero front facing versus I just want to be a librarian and read books all day. I mean, I feel like
Talk
that
to
that's
kids. Kids
very
are better
poignant,
than grown-ups.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that you ask that because I always felt, even when I was a little kid, I always felt this push-pull of I always wanted conflicting things.
Mhm.
I, you know, I want to go have adventures and do all these things, but I want to stay in my little house and be cozy or,
Right.
I just always felt like I always wanted conflicting things for my life, and it was really hard to find a balance between those things. And I mean, it's still hard, balance is
I'll
always
say,
something that you're
yeah.
always working on, right? So I imagine from my own life, I understand where Willard is coming from of he appreciates his powers. He's not a reluctant superhero
Mhm.
like, oh no, don't give me superpowers. He wants to help people that need help, but he also doesn't want to have to feel like he's doing it pretending to be somebody else, somebody that
Mhm.
he's not.
And I think that's, I mean, for me, that's what really stood out about the story. And it's the fact of, how do I phrase this? It's a superhero story that takes place in such a real world. Obviously, it's a contemporary environment, but at the same time, in a world in which I feel superheroes would exist, it would turn into this. Like, it
Mhm.
would turn into superheroes having agents. It would just like capitalism would do its thing and kind of ruin it for everybody.
People would have to have like insurance clauses for when a superhero crashes through their
Yeah,
roof.
exactly. Like I could see it just getting so nitty gritty, and I think that's what really stood out about the story was that, okay, yes, this is it's a make believe world in a very realistic kind of way, and I think with when it comes down to like, oh yeah, we're only gonna solve these crimes because these crimes are what's the biggest bang for your buck, or these crimes are what gets you the most Instagram followers, or whatever it may be. It was really nice to read about someone who, like, you could tell from the get-go, he just wanted to do good. So I, like, to your point of him being a reluctant, like not being a reluctant superhero, I completely agree. He didn't like he wanted to help, but he wanted to help everybody.
Yeah.
And he was very, I believe his name was Hopper. You're gonna have to forgive me with name.
Hopper. Yeah, it's Hopper.
Um, and he was just so restrained in that regard. And it was so frustrating to read. Be like, no, just help the guy. Like, come on. Why you gotta be so picky? Why do we care so much about our image here?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, the how rooted it was in the reality of our society today was really impactful for me. How did it feel writing that?
I mean, it felt like I feel like it grew pretty naturally
Mhm.
from the world that I created. I I will say I don't this is nothing against any agents in the literary industry. They're lovely people with a lot of work on their plate doing their best to help authors. But I do have to say, so I feel like a little bit of Willard's frustration was stemmed from some of my own frustrations with the system
Mhm.
of agenting, you'd hear. interviews and things where people are like, well, don't do this as an author or as a querying author or as an author with an agent because you don't want to get a reputation of being difficult to work with. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
or
Like you see it
keep
in
your head
acting.
down and keep your eyes on your own paper and don't talk to other like there's some things that are a little unhealthy in the industry, and I think some of it that came out in the book
Well, I mean, to that point, did you find it almost cathartic to write then?
a little bit.
Yeah. I absolutely would have. 'Cause I mean, you see it not just in publishing, you see it in acting. People are like, oh yeah,
Oh
they're
yeah.
difficult to work with and this and that. It's like the moment you kind of have, I guess there's so many people vying for it
Hmm.
that the moment you have the smallest of marks on you, they'll just move on to the next person. And it's so
Yeah.
disappointing because it's as much as I want to say we live in a world of second chances, a lot of times we don't.
A lot of times we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I mean, they have a really tough job, literary agents, and especially, after the pandemic, there were so many people writing, and now with people trying to query AI written books, I mean, like, ugh, don't even get me started. But
We did a writing competition a few months ago, and typically we get like 70, 80 submissions, and we're so excited about them. And then most recently we got 300, and I can say confidently 90% were AI. It was just so disappointing.
so sad.
Yeah.
So sad. People, you are creative beings. Use your own brain.
Exactly. It's
But yeah, so I mean, I know they have an absolutely overwhelming job and they really don't get paid that much, but they're doing it for the love of books and trying to get the kind of books out there that they want. So no shade on any individual literary agency or agent at all. Just you know, just some things
but
maybe
but if you want to
not
throw shade,
together.
we'll do it at the end, so don't worry.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I think like when it comes to the AI stuff and everything, it has just completely devolved. And obviously, the more you read it, the more you can tell. But it is going, words, it's exponential. It is going to reach a point where you won't be able to tell.
It's
And I
so
think
sad.
that's what's really demoralizing about it all. This is why
Yeah.
we have to keep supporting the little guy and keep supporting the small voices. But it's like you said, we have our creative brains. We got to use them because if we don't, I think that's where it could really handicap us because
Yeah.
like that creativity will go away eventually.
It will, and it goes away fast. I mean, they've done some crazy, scary studies about when you're using AI to help you write, homework or whatever, how fast you go back and try to do it yourself, and then you can't really
Yeah.
anymore, or it's so much harder.
I think it's one thing it being adapted as we're kind of in like adulthood, but as adolescents, like you don't have those habits set yet. Whereas like now I know how to read a book, I know how to write. Like, have I used it before? I've used it before, but I've toned off of it and everything now that I understand how it all works. Um, but like if you're 15, it's a really easy habit to set, and then you don't have an alternative, and then there you
Yeah. You don't practice those skills, you don't develop those connections and those synapses in your brain, and you don't write. So much of the reason why people write is it connects you to yourself
Mhm.
as well as to other people. And if you aren't connected to yourself, you're using these generative AI to produce your work,
Yeah.
you're cutting yourself off from your own self.
It's uh it's a rabbit hole you and I can talk about for
Yeah, I know, right?
it's
All day,
it's,
right?
it's one of those, oh man, because it's
Soapbox.
it's
It's a
so
soapbox.
pervasive. It's a soapbox 100%. On a more positive note,
Yeah.
um as someone who has used dating apps before, I feel like you nailed the online dating experience. What are kind of your thoughts on the apps, just modern romance in general, love stories and all?
It's funny because I met my husband before dating apps were really a thing. I have never
Smart
been
woman.
personally on a dating app.
Yeah.
So it was from, a couple of things that I'd heard and mostly just my own like, oh, I bet it's like this.
Yeah.
I can see these would be the problems that would come up.
And
Uh,
I mean,
but
like, yeah, as someone
dating
who's been on
now.
it, sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh no,
Dating
you're good. I was just trying to remember the rest of your question. Um, my
modern
husband and
romance.
I will be having our 28th anniversary next month.
Congrats.
So I've been out of the dating circle for a while, happily so.
Well,
Um,
how did you find writing about dating then? So far removed from it.
um, I mean, trying to find somebody is trying to find somebody,
Mhm.
whatever the means, whether you're going through a matchmaker 200 years ago, or you're going through a dating app, or you're going to clubs or
Yeah.
whatever, or even trying to find an agent, a literary agent. They always compare that to dating. Trying to find somebody's trying to find somebody. And I think the frustrations may take slightly different shapes or wear slightly different clothes, but the frustrations are still there. I have adult children and I watch them try
Mhm.
to date and just be like, how do I
Yeah.
even go out and meet people? There's no place to meet people anymore.
Yeah, it's basically you meet someone in school or
Hmm.
your or like work or your SOL. Like
Yeah, it's so hard to meet people.
no, no, so it's one of those things where I feel like, especially the idea of like the blind dating service. I think there's on one hand, like I don't want to get into nitty gritty, so I'm like, oh, that could be dangerous. But
Yeah.
on but on the other hand, it is that idea of just like things now are so superficial.
Hmm.
And it's interesting to read romance novels and see how they've evolved and changed, and just because how do I phrase this? Like you have stories that are about the honeymoon phase and the dating process, and you have stories about people who've been married for 30 years or 40 years.
I
And
love those.
yeah. That's actually the story we paired Tanked with, Mute Swans,
I have to go
is
read that one.
it's very much like how love evolves over time,
That's
or
beautiful.
how it doesn't, and how communication plays a role and everything like that. But it's a lot of like sticking with it.
Hmm.
Whereas I feel like today it's easier to jump ship. It's easier, like you see the fast and furious, and the moment that kind of starts to dissipate, oh, there'll be someone else.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a demoralizing process out there, I gotta
It
say.
is. And it's been an interesting thing, talking to my adult kids about, okay, there's the phase of dating when you feel like you're in love with somebody that's like the Twitter patient phase,
Mhm.
that lasts maybe a year or so. And then you get into oh, we're past the honeymoon phase. Maybe the shine's a little worn off. And do you still stay? And is that person still, can they meet your needs when they're not totally obsessed with you at the very beginning
Yeah.
like they are? And can you meet their needs? And how do you how do you support each other still? But that's what grows real love, I think.
Exactly. I think it's always going to be work. It's always going to be, it's something you have to work towards and communicate about. Because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, I think you can make it work with anyone so long as you guys are both on the same page.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely
that,
easier with some people than others, but
oh yeah, don't get me wrong, there's compatibility for sure.
yeah.
But
But yeah,
you could
commitment
be,
and
oh, sorry,
ability to communicate and willingness to give the other person what they need.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's everything.
Mhm.
Um, So, breaking off of the dating aspect, when it comes to Tanked in the superhero world, I was reading this and I was thinking a little bit about Sky High. Um, I maybe it was the kind of capitalism side of things. I haven't seen too much of it, but I was thinking a little bit of The Boys.
I haven't seen that one.
It's a lot darker,
Yeah.
but it has that same sort of like superheroes are in it for themselves kind of thing. Not to say Tanked was, but the agent side of things, it kind of
Yeah.
related there.
Mhm.
Where did you kind of pull inspiration from? How did you try to go about setting it apart from what we typically see in Marvel and DC as well?
Well, I have to say, I am a big Marvel MCU fan. I
Mm.
love it. It's really fun, but I didn't want this to feel like that. Marvel
Yeah.
does Marvel really well. We don't need somebody else to do Marvel. I didn't want it to be like a Marvel derivative of Marvel or anything. I want
Mhm.
it to feel like its own self. So with that in mind, I let the characters lead.
Yeah.
Tank is such a cinnamon roll. He's so like gentle and squishy inside. I
Mhm.
tried to kind of let that help lead the tone of the book.
Yeah.
It would feel like its own self and less like just punchy, blow stuff up kind
Right.
of feeling, which, that's great. I love it too.
I mean, yeah, there's a reason why people buy those kind of books,
Right.
100%. And then I guess stemming from that, obviously you're writing the story takes place from Willard's perspective. How did you find it writing from a male's perspective? Because it's always interesting. Some women write men well, some men write women well, and vice versa. But it can be a tricky subject to dive into.
It can, I think, um with acting, with writing, with any of that, I mean, empathy and being willing and able to try to step into somebody else's shoes
Mhm.
is key.
Yeah.
Um, I feel he's not the first male character point of view that was my main character. This was just the first book that I published.
Okay.
Um, I I find it really fun to write male characters,
Yeah.
actually, and I think a little bit of that um on my side is I write men a little bit more towards how I feel they should be. And then
I think
just
that's the right way to do it. I think if enough people do that, men will eventually read and be like, oh, maybe it's gonna click.
I can be like this. Yeah, it's okay to be soft. It's okay
Yeah.
to be gentle. You know, it's okay to have emotions. I think
Mhm.
it's good for men to have those examples, and I'm really lucky in that my husband and my sons
Mhm.
have been really good that way, and they're open. I this might embarrass him a little bit, but my oldest son, when he was 14, he talked to me about the girls that he had crushes on. There was no like hands off, don't, that's embarrassing, don't talk to me. You know, he'd cry
Yeah.
on my shoulder when she didn't like him back. You know, it was really sweet. I feel like I've had um the blessing of having men in my life who are open and can kind of give that perspective for me to lean into with these characters.
Nice. I'm that's based on how wholesome Tanked is, that felt like that I was really hoping that would be the answer because it's come off it's and I think to because this was Steve's question and to the point about it, it's just it was so authentic.
Oh,
And I
thank
think there is a level of authenticity throughout the story that we both lack in real life today and goes a really long way. Like you have the moments, and again, forgive me with names, but you had the I think it was the mayor's son.
Gerard.
One more time.
Gerard.
Gerard, right. So you had Gerard and like him and Tank were friends. And then like Tank has to listen to Hopper and like be like, no, you can't be hanging out with you can't be doing this and that. But you knew when that attack happened, when that there was that moment, and like Tank was broken. Like he was devastated.
This is my
And
little buddy, and
exactly.
yeah.
So I think it was really nice to see that humanity shine through because, a lot of times I imagine, I don't know, I'm not a superhero, but I feel like a lot of times the powers can get to your head. Um, and this is kind of coming down to the themes of identity and authenticity and who am I? How do I want to be? Who do I want to be? The fact that parts of the book take place in Vegas, was Vegas an intentional setting?
You know, I don't know that I actually thought about Vegas in terms of like what people present to the world versus what is really going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Might have been subconscious.
Okay, fair.
I'm gonna be honest, it's been a couple of years and I can't actually remember why I picked Vegas. But I feel like it worked for that.
Mhm. Because the way I was reading it was like you see Vegas and you see the show, you see the lights and the flashing, and I don't know. I had this moment where Hopper really wants to transfer Tank to Vegas. I'm like, you're already in LA. Like, how much bigger can you get? But
How many crimes can you stop in one night and go back and forth?
exactly. Um, and then obviously we can just dive into the the praying mantis cult. What was going on there?
You know, okay, the praying mantis statue,
Yeah.
real place. This is actually part of why I picked Vegas because there
Okay.
are so many crazy places, and I'm like, I don't have to
Mhm.
make anything up.
That's super valid. Easy to keep your story straight.
Yeah, the insect theme, you know, it goes with the actual Abaddon character in
Mhm.
Revelations, where it's talking about how this monster looks like. My husband is a bit of an entomologist too, so I'm like, let me pick your brains on the
Okay.
bugs and stuff. But there is an actual 40-foot tall praying mantis statue in Vegas. We went close to when the book came out so I could take pictures with it.
I have
I'm
to.
like, oh my gosh, this has to go in the book. We have to have a scene here. But the statues that he finds out in the desert, that's a real place. There's a real art installation out there,
Oh, I've just Googled it. That is crazy.
right?
Okay. Okay.
Truth is stranger than fiction. I
Well,
love finding really funky locations for my book that are real.
and it makes it so much more realistic. Like I'm reading that. I've been to Vegas a few times. mostly to my friends and I go to rock climbing stuff. We don't go to be degenerates.
Yeah.
But because of that, because of that, we don't see all those things. So I read them and go, okay, that's just part of the book. But now it's like you reread it and you can actually visualize yourself there, and it makes it so much
Yeah.
easier to set the scene. It makes the story more accessible. Because I'm sure there's been somebody from Vegas who has read this book and go, oh, I know where that is. Like
I
I've done
hope
it.
so.
Yeah.
I always hope that when I pick my locations, I'm like, I hope I want to get it right for somebody who
Mhm.
knows this already,
Yeah.
so they can
No,
say, "Hey."
we featured a story called Domestication ages ago now, and it takes place on an isolated sheep farm, and about 150, 200 pages in, she name drops the city Corvallis, which is it's like a small college town in Oregon that you would only really know if you're from here. And I was like, wait, I know where this is now. This is great.
Yeah, I see you. I recognize
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. So it's little things like that that really draw the reader in. Obviously, it's a select reader that does it, but like you have enough of those, you pull in enough different readers from different spaces, and it really makes a difference. Um, but yeah, no, I really liked it, and obviously they have the romance going on, which I thought was really interesting. How you had Tanked and the woman on the blind dating app. I guess you had Willard and the woman on the blind dating app.
Willard and Grace.
Lillard and Grace, and then Tanked, and what was the name she was going by?
Elodie.
Elodie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is spoiler territory, people. So again,
Yeah, I mean,
if you haven't read
if
it,
you're
go read
25 minutes into the interview, like go back and read the book.
it.
Like, I have no sympathy for y'all.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I don't know. I was talking to Steve about this because I was like, that plot twist went completely. I didn't see it coming for a second because I remember being like, wait, what if they're the same person? And then coming up with like a reason, being like, well, no, obviously they can't be the same person because of this. And I
I
was like,
tried
oh my
really hard.
yeah, no, I mean it completely had me fooled. I sat there being like, "Oh, I'm an idiot." Like,
I was hoping it would be one of those that like the second if people read it a second time, they could be like, "Oh,
Mhm,
now I see
mhm.
how this fits together."
It's like because like she's busy at this time, he's free at this time. Like
Mhm.
the scheduling and stuff are hints as well. And to your point, you just said like you tried really hard. Did you have to kind of outline that, or how did you go around mapping it to make sure?
I am in between, you have pantser as they call it and plotter, and I'm a
Yeah,
solid planter.
fair.
So I gotta have a lot of spontaneity when I write, or my brain's like, I already know where this is going. I don't need to
Yeah.
write it. So I'm not a strong outliner. I write and then I go back and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm coming up with this right now. So I make myself a note that I need to go back before that and change some things
Right.
to plant that idea or to hide this idea or whatever. So it's kind of a holistic, everything's out at once, and I'm like going here and there
Mhm.
to put it all together.
No, and that's how I was when I first read it. Like, it's why I prefer reading physical books to ebooks or manuscripts. It's hard to go back and forth in a
Mm.
ebook. But I remember there was one scene in particular where she was explaining how the flower in one side, flower on one ear means something different than flower in the other ear.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, she's wearing a flower. So like I had to go back and try to figure out what page because I forgot what ear the flower was
Which year
on.
is she wearing
Yeah,
it
what she
in?
was wearing on. Um, but no, I thought that that was a really, really lovely way to go about it all. I had my reservations about Hopper from the get-go. Um, how did you feel writing him? Was Hopper always going to be one of the bad guys? Was Hopper,
He was always going to be a slimy git.
yeah, fair, fair.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's one of those things where he gives you these arguments sometimes and you're like they're almost worse because they make sense.
yeah,
Like,
it's one of those where it's like it's like you're watching a video and you're like people are telling you this is what the video means, but then you're like, wait, no, I'm watching it. It means something different. Like I'm
yeah.
interpreting it in a different way. And I felt that because you feel tanked. You feel Willard battling with himself throughout. And this isn't this like it's a reoccurring thing.
Hmm.
He's constantly at his ends with Hopper, but at the same time, Hopper carries the very strong point of, I mean, if you don't do it, I can literally put anyone else in your shoes and be fine.
Yeah,
And
or when he's telling Tank, he's trying to convince him that, oh, we don't need to help these small jobs, when
yeah,
he compares it to, you don't have your head detective writing parking tickets.
yeah,
And you think, well, yeah, sure, of course you don't, because they're working detective cases. But at the same time, it's like in Willard's shoes, he's like, but these people need help. I don't
They
want to
need
turn
help.
people. So it's this, they're kind of convincing arguments
Yeah,
sometimes.
no, I mean, I had the same moment where I'm like, the guy makes sense, and I think that's what makes him such a good villain is that you have moments where you can really agree with him, and like, had he not been so greedy, you could just see him as a little bit of a like, as oh gosh, have you ever seen Entourage?
Again.
Okay. He reminds me of a character in Entourage called Ari, who is like their agent. He's very much like money, 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 money. Um, but like will occasionally kind of what do you call it? Kind of drip feed them a passion project so that
Mm,
they can like stay engaged and stay
like
in line.
string
Uh
them along with
yeah.
just enough to keep them like,
Ex
okay, maybe I can
ex
stay in this relationship. It's kind
exactly.
of an abusive technique, right?
I mean, obviously it works, unfortunately, but it was an interesting dynamic there because I think those are the most powerful super villains are the ones that you can relate to, the
Mhm.
ones that you're like, oh yeah,
I kind of see your
got a
point.
point.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, hats off to you. That could not have been an easy thing to get right. I'm sure there was a lot of revision, a lot of because at the end of the day, you get what, 250, 300 pages. And of those 300 pages, you're gonna have X amount of characters. Like Hopper probably only has like 20 pages of dialogue. And you really gotta make sure it's all linked in, it's all succinct, it's all trending towards the point you want
All
to make.
doing its job.
Mhm. Do you find when you're writing stuff like that, um, obviously if you're a plantser, where is the like how much revision does goes into something like this? I mean, obviously, every indie author is different, but from your experience, how many
I
times
feel
you
like even
delve into a book?
every project is different
Yeah.
too. Like actually the biggest revisions that I did with Tanked was this was me trying
Okay.
to plot more and I thought I knew where it was going. Elodie did not exist, Gerard didn't exist, and that they weren't characters at all
Really?
in the
Okay.
beginning. And I got to the scene at the mayor's house and both of these characters popped up and I'm like, oh, okay, who are you? What are we doing? And I kind of kept writing in the direction that I thought it was going to go and they kept showing up and I was thinking about it, I'm like, oh, no,
Yeah.
these are how this is tying in. So, and I finished the first draft because you got to finish it so you have something to edit, right? But
Yeah.
then I had to go back and rewrite like the first, I don't know, third book of the book to
Hmm.
in lieu of the changes that that made because this is why I don't plot so heavily because I would miss all the best stuff.
Yeah. No,
We
I
wouldn't
mean,
have had that plot twist, right?
I think it's the same thing. Like if you're going to give a speech or do anything like public speaking wise, at least for myself, if you're trying to memorize a speech, the moment you mess up one word, you're going to get in your head and completely like just falter. But
Yeah.
if you have like three or four points you want to make and just kind of let yourself talk through them, then I think that's where your creativity really starts to flow.
Hmm.
Um, one of the questions I really wanted to get into about Tanked is the world building. Obviously, I think that this is part of what makes world building so cool in stories like this is that it only feels a half step removed from reality. And because of that, it's accessible, it's easy to sink into. You don't have to spend a lot of time telling because you can really just show, like, yeah, this is the world, this is what's happening. So many different superheroes and superpowers. I love the creativity behind, like, they can just kind of, not shape, they can kind of like time jump or jump back and forth, like teleport. I thought that was really clever. The drama with Grace's brother as well because I still had my moments where I'm like, I'm pretty confident he's a bad guy. Like, um, so hats off to you there. I'm curious though, because you've created this world, is there more coming from the world of Tanked?
I have some potential ideas
Hmm.
for another book. I my next project that I'm working on is a trilogy,
Yeah.
so that's going to be the next little while of my life.
Fair.
But usually, honestly, usually the way my brain likes to percolate a
Okay.
lot.
Hmm.
And so usually what I'm doing is I'm actively working on one project and I have a notebook for all of these different stories and an idea will come or a little tidbit or whatever, and I'll go and write that in the notebook and save it for when I'm done with this project to get to that project.
Yeah.
So the ideas build up over time, but I do have some directions to potentially go in for a tanked sequel if we decide to do that, if people want.
That's super valid. I think it's that's the beauty of being an indie author is that you're not really beholden to anyone or anything. You can write whatever you want to write whenever you're feeling it.
Hopefully people like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reception of Tanked is very exciting. I'm very happy about it. Like it was a lovely story to read. Um, I do want to dive in a little bit to Grace
Yeah.
because she is kind of the saving grace here. She is, pun intended.
But don't.
Yeah. Like she feels like she is the sense of stability, not just for Willard, but also for her family. And not just her personal family, but also the family that she's made through work and that kind of community that she's created. She seems to be the woman that's always, I won't say the mom of the group, for lack of a better word. Like she's the one that's on top of it. And how, I guess when you're writing this romance, how did you go about it? Because I feel like a woman like Grace, there's a very particular type of person that can frankly date a woman like Grace, just like it's a very particular type of person that can date a person like Willard. So if you were saying earlier that Elodie and Gerard didn't exist, who was the romance? Or was it always just going to be the blind date?
Grace was still there. Grace was
Oh,
there.
okay, okay.
Yeah. I just didn't know that there was also Elodie.
That,
She
that
was
she had another
she was gonna
side
tie
to
in
her.
that way. Yeah.
Oh, I
Originally they were just gonna like meet in person and have all these adventures and stuff, and then it totally
Mhm.
changed.
Did you have to go, was the way that you ended up introducing them finally after it was building up and I was like, oh my God, they just need to meet. Was that was the first draft the final draft and how you wanted them to eventually get together and meet? Or
When he takes her the book,
yeah.
that scene, it was pretty close.
Mhm.
I mean, you always like tweak a few things here and there and stuff, but it was pretty close. I didn't change that scene a lot in revision.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I didn't make it a very long scene because I really wanted it to just be this kind of like moment of being shocked and
Mhm.
devastated at the same time. Like I've already ruined things with this person.
And now I'm doubling it because it's the same
I'm
person.
ruining it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was why it was just like I, it was so interesting because I don't read a lot of romance myself, but the idea that they were both the same, it was so kind of perfect. And I'm sitting there being like there's the scene when they're in the car and they're kind of having food at the car, and she's like, oh wait, I gotta send this message, and he's like, oh, I gotta send this message. I'm like, okay, that's when it started. The wheel started to turn a little bit for me. I was like, wait a second.
Why are they messaging?
But I also thought it was nice as someone who's been on the dating apps of kind of committing to someone. Like I'm actually really getting along with this person. I want to just talk to this person, even if we haven't met yet,
Mhm.
because it's a dog eat dog world out there, and
It's
the amount of
hard.
people you're talking to at once, it can get overwhelming and exhausting. So it's
Mhm.
nice to just see people like, no, I like this person. I wanna follow up with
I
that.
want to see where this goes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think real relationships deserve that sort of commitment and authenticity. To that point, we have about 90 seconds left before Zoom cuts us off here.
Oh wow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can fly through these. Well, final question. Obviously, for people who liked Tanked and they want to keep up with everything you're working on, what's
Hmm.
the best way to get a hold of you and follow up with everything? I'll put all like
Okay.
website links and everything in the link.
Great. My website is
Hmm.
kellyfaewilson.com. And you can scroll down to the bottom of the page and sign up for my newsletter. Any book announcements, news, stuff like that will come in my newsletter. And you can follow me on Instagram, Kelly Fae Wilson on Instagram. Those are probably the best two places.
Okay, perfect. I'll get all that sorted. And then what is the trilogy going to be about?
It is actually a series of fairy tale retellings, but again, set contemporary, where each tale gets its own book, but they weave together in a larger arc. Sort of like Lunar Chronicles, but in the
Oh,
adult space and with much less well-known fairy tales.
oh,
The
that's very
first
cool.
one is a couple of Scottish fairy tales. I don't know, like nobody's ever heard of it. It's called The Black Bull of Norway is the
I'm
tale.
I'm
So now
sure
you have to go look that up and read it.
I'm sure Steve's heard of it. So like
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Steve and tell him Ken and B Dick too and Thomas the Rhymer are showing up. So tell him that.
I will do. But for those of you that stuck around this long, story was tanked with Kelly Fae Wilson. Thank you so much again for joining us. We're so grateful.
Thank
We're
you all.
excited for
Thank you,
everything to
Ryan.
come. Take care.